Welcome, fine folk, to another edition of the Cricket8 Podcast. I'm one half of today's episode, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and with me, as ever, is the doyen of all knowledge on the Cricket8 Podcast, Megha Sinha. Megha, how you doing?
I didn't expect my legs to be pulled right at the beginning of the podcast, but yeah, game on. How are
Oh
you?
well, I'm very, very good, and we've been discussing backstage about what would we talk about today. And for those of you who are joining us live or joining us on the replay, I'm sure you've seen the kind of thumbnail, you've seen the picture of MS Dhoni, and we're asking the big question. We're asking the big question, a question that needs to be asked. But before we get onto that, because I'm sure you're eager to see which one of us is going to be the more reckless in the commentary they make on this particular topic. But before we get to that, let's just reflect on the week that has been. And by the week, I mean it's only Wednesday. We've had a few games since the start of this week. Jared and Rob did a live watch along on Sunday. I'm sure many of you tuned in for that with regards to get my games up, with regards to the Sunrisers versus Gujarat. And production has put the table up on the board. But Megha, before we look at the table, so on Monday, we had RCB beat Mumbai Indians by 12 runs. And then yesterday, we had the Nicholas Pooran show. I should say Mitch Marsh as well. With the Pooran show as LSG. Lucknow beat KKR by 4 runs. And also Punjab beat CSK by 18 runs. A lot of 200 plus games over the last 3 days. And of course, later today, or shortly today, we have Gujarat versus Rajasthan. What's been your reflections on the 3 games this week, Megha?
So we've seen that, and that's reflected in the points table as well. That the powerhouses of the IPL, they are languishing in the second half of the table, while the teams who have never lifted the IPL or barring GT or otherwise have struggled, they find themselves in the top five. So that's interesting and that's refreshing and that's extremely important. In the meanwhile, there's a comment as well which we'd be fielding shortly from now. But yeah, talking about the games this week, the start of the week, we had a double header as well, and yesterday, in fact. Let's begin with that game between MI and RCB. Now, RCB had not defeated MI at the Wankhede for a decade. The show that they put on, although it did get tight with that partnership between Suryakumar Yadav and Tilak Verma, but Hardik and Tilak Verma, eventually it was not to be. MI have been struggling and they need to pull up their socks really quick because although they are known for staging comebacks, but in the last half a decade, it's not been so for MI. They've when they've started slow, they've not really ended up making it to the playoffs. So it's not been great for MI. So yeah, uh, Jasprit Bumrah making a comeback, huge plus for them. Went wicketless, but was extremely economical, and his impact was there to be seen. But other bowlers were conceding so much, even in terms of the batting department. There's not been a collective show with at least 3 or 4 of their batters firing together. We saw Hardik doing well. As a captain, he's been picking wickets, he's been coming up with cameos, but we're talking about the entire team contributing. Rohit Sharma has been struggling as well. It's been a while since we've really seen an IPL, him taking an IPL by storm, an IPL season by storm. And coming to the RCB, Virat Kohli continues to be the run machine, and Rajat Patidar has been leading from the front, has been inspirational. So far, so good for RCB. What are your thoughts on that particular game?
Well, I think you've kind of made the point at the beginning that the powerhouses are down at the bottom, but looking in particular at Mumbai. Um, I mean, you said it's good for the tournament to see
Yeah.
new teams. I wouldn't call RCB a new team, but obviously RCB have their own kind of law about them in terms of failing to win titles and everyone kind of, I don't know. In fact, actually, before I answer the question of how I saw that game, what's your views on RCB as a franchise in general? Do you see them as a Cinderella team? Do you want them to? Do you want them to win a title? Do you think they need to win a title? What do you just see? How do you see the RCB law first and foremost?
So I think sports fans by constitution are sadistic. a fanatic, at the same time sadistic as well. So the thing around the RCB is their followers are extremely passionate about their team, and year after year they've supported their team with utmost passion. But the other fans who support other teams really don't want the RCB to win, and I would urge other neutral fans or fans of other teams to really chip in with their opinions. Do they want the RCB to win? But RCB have been such a brilliant story. They've made it to the finals. They've had teams in the past that have looked really dominating, but somehow it has not really happened for them. And if we look back at the years, there's no single reason why it has not happened for them, because they've had top guns. There have been years when they have really balanced teams. So all of that, there have been years when they've really looked good. There have been years when they've not done well in the first half of the tournament, but gathered steam in the second half and yet fallen at the final hurdle, like in the 2016 season when Virat Kohli looked like a man possessed, and him being the captain, it looked like he'd on his own get the team to the title, but the team fell short in the finals against SRH. So it's been an interesting story, and you need such teams for any league to succeed. A team which has a lot of passionate fans, and I've stayed in Bangalore for a number of IPL seasons, and I've seen how passionate the fans are. An RCB game underway, you'd see almost everybody busy watching the game, following the scorecard, or even after the game has concluded, you'd overhear on the streets them talking about the game. So that's the level of passion that their fans have. But somehow, unfortunately, that's not happened. Which team, by the way, do you support? And do you have a soft corner somewhere in your heart for the RCB fans and the RCB team?
I will not pretend to have any kind of softening in my heart for RCB. Because you know,
Why
I
so?
guess I'm fortunate only because not anything specific to RCB. I'm fortunate in that I've never really centered on any one IPL side. I tend to gravitate to whichever West Indian player is performing
Okay.
best. So as things currently stand, Nicholas Puran is lighting up
Hmm.
this year's IPL. So naturally, with my West Indian hat on, I will just gravitate towards Lucknow's games just to see what Puran might do today. If you see what I mean, I'm going to gravitate to Puran's highlights, etc. So if you said to me, do I support a specific team? No. That doesn't mean I support Nicholas Puran, the player, because obviously you got Shafane Rutherford doing some stuff this year as well. So there's more, and obviously you got Narayan and Dre at KKR. So I tend to go wherever the best West Indian player is playing at any moment in time. But the one thing I will just touch on, because you did ask me what did I think about the game in particular. I think the only thing really that stood out for me in the game was the fact it was Bumrah is on the comeback trail now. Now, however, I look at the table and I see that Mumbai are 1 from 5. Do you think the addition of Bumrah? I mean, I'm looking at Mumbai have a lot to do to try and overcome. It's hard to come
Yeah.
back from 1 win from 5, but Jasprit Bumrah is
Hmm.
Jasprit Bumrah. Would you be shocked if they suddenly went on a win streak because they've got Bumrah back?
I wouldn't be, because they've done it in the past, but uh, it doesn't look that likely at the moment. And that's because Jasprit Bumrah can do Jasprit Bumrah things and ensure that Mumbai stage some sort of a comeback. But a winning streak, to stitch that one from here, it's going to be very difficult. And my reasons are their batting in the power play has been a cause of concern. How does Hardik utilize Bumrah? How can he utilize Bumrah? So at best, there'd be an over up front, because you've got Deepak Chahar and Trent Bolt. They are at their best when there's some movement on offer at the start, and Deepak Chahar has been expensive. Trent Bolt in the previous game got a wicket in the first over, like he does otherwise as well. Yet they couldn't really dominate from there. Chahar's over was taken for 20 runs, the final power play over. So they've been leaking runs up front. There haven't been enough partnerships. Opening partnerships haven't been coming to their aid. And in fact, if we look at that particular game, zero in on that, and up until the 12th over, it didn't look like they were really pushing for the win. It's only after the 12th over, when Hardik and Tilak got together, did it look like there was a chance. But by then, they were already playing the catching game. So it's it's not been that collective effort that you need with Bumrah coming in. That's one important addition, but there's only so much that Jasprit Bumrah can do.
Indeed. Let's move to Lucknow versus KKR. And for those of you who are waiting patiently for the MS Dhoni hot take, we are getting to that, but it's important that we do look at the week that has been. Lucknow versus KKR. Lucknow winning that one by 4 runs. Now, I Fireball says I wouldn't be mad if RCB wins. So there you go. We got some RCB fans. Or certainly okay. No, Vignesh says I don't want them to win a title. This is RCB people. Their followers, some are very
And his
passionate
reasons.
and some are very hateful. Imagine if they win a title, how hateful they will be to other teams. So hold on a minute. I don't understand the IPL subculture here. So what are we saying? Are we saying that RCB are what, Manchester United? Like how are people viewing RCB here? Are they the Manchester United of the IPL world? Please, people in the comments, let me know if you are going to equate it to Premier League
Then
football
who is
clubs.
Manchester City and who's
Well, that was
Arsenal?
gonna
So
exactly. That's
yeah,
exactly what I was gonna say. That's why I want to know if we're equating this to Premier League clubs, who are RCB people? Help me understand. But Mega, Lucknow and Kolkata Knight Riders. Obviously, it was the Nicholas Puran show. He was the one who came out of that game with all the kind of headlines. For those who didn't watch it or didn't see the highlights of it, he hit 87 not out from 36 balls at a strike rate of 241. To put Nicholas's knock in perspective, Mitch Marsh hit 81 from 48, and that looked
yeah.
like he was going slowly. That's how amazing Puran's knock was. Puran obviously is currently leading the runs chart. He's probably leading the strike rate chart. He's probably leading every single metric in IPL right now. And here's the funny thing, Mega. I was told by people who have better knowledge of the IPL than me before the tournament started that Lucknow are going to struggle because they don't really have a
Hmm.
bowling attack, and they've gone all in
Yeah.
on this kind of super heavy hitter
Hmm.
tactic. But as things stand right now, would you say that it's working for them? Would you say that they're shutting the critics up, or do you think it will actually all come tumbling down at some stage?
So I think a lot of that question was to do with the fact that their bowlers were injured. For example, Akashdeep only made a comeback recently. Mayank Yadav, we do not really know the nature of his toe injury. He was making a comeback from another injury, suffered yet another one. So, and then Shardul Thakur was a last minute induction, and that was very important because Shardul Thakur, we were baffled why he went unsold in the first place because he had taken the Ranji Trophy by storm, and he was being extremely effective with his wicket taking, and he was also chipping in with important under pressure runs with the bat. So Shardul Thakur was an important addition, and he demonstrated that in the IPL as well in the initial games. In fact, that pressure over towards the death or whichever stage of the game he was used, he contributed, and Mohsin Khan was ruled out. So there were a lot of bowlers who were injured or not at their 100%. As far as fitness is concerned, I think the questions were around that. Ravi Bishnoi as well. Now, he was retained. He didn't do that well in the previous edition of the IPL. So there have been diminishing returns from him. And in the season as well, he's not really been that effective. So I think the questions were around that. But the batting has really covered a lot of it. Nicholas Puran in particular, he's thoroughly led the batting charts, and with that knock in the previous game as well. Mitchell Marsh has something to prove for sure because even in the Big Bash League, we saw how things worked out for him. Eventually, he did obviously end up with the franchise he's been associated with for the longest time. But yeah, there were some apprehensions in between, and then losing his test spot, struggling for runs. So him making a comeback and hitting the ground running, that has been extremely important. Rishabh Pant continues to struggle, but as long as the results are coming in their favor, the owners might not have a lot to complain about. But yeah, so I understand where the criticism or the questions were coming from. It is because of players not being there 100%. But as of now, at this moment, things look okay for them. As the tournament progresses, that becomes interesting if these bowlers can continue to be at their best, because the rigors of the tournament, as the tournament progresses, is going to be more workload if they can shoulder that and still be effective.
In terms of the two sides, Lucknow and KKR, if you had to make if you had to make a decision right now, because both could fail to actually get to the final stages or to the qualifiers, right? Or eliminators, I should say. Who do you think is better placed out of these two sides to make the eliminators, the final four? Or would you say that you don't think either one will?
Uh, Very difficult to say at this stage. There's not much separating them, and as is evident in front of us, there's just 2 points between the two of those teams. Now, for KKR, defending champions, they retained bulk of their nucleus. So let's look at the individual components. Ajinkya Rahane didn't have a great season last time around, but he's been leading from the front, was in red hot form in SMAT as well, and has carried on from there. So that's a huge positive. But apart from that, for the initial few games, the middle order didn't really fire. But then Rinku Singh in the previous game came up with that cameo of his, and at the top as well, Sunil Narine in between has been chipping in. Initially, started with a good knock, but again, he's been chipping in with important contributions. So they do have the wherewithal to succeed in the bowling department as well. Varun Chakravarti has been extremely effective. They do have the wherewithal to succeed. But it's very difficult after a mega auction season to replicate that success, to continue to be that dominant and strong. And probably now we are learning how important Shreyas Iyer was to the team, was to the previous edition of. Of KKR, their previous rendition. But nonetheless, they do have. Again, they've also been complaining that the wickets at home haven't really been supporting them. So that is going to be extremely important. Spin is their strength, and they'd want the wickets at home to support them. That's been the lamentation with a lot of teams, actually. And as far as the LSG is concerned, at some point or the other, because the top heavy LSG team, up until this point, we've been seeing contributions from their key batters. By the way, Quinton de Kock, an ex-LSG player, he is yet to chip in for KKR. He didn't have a great season last time either, but otherwise he's been really consistent in the IPL. So anyway, coming back to the LSG, they'd want Rishabh Pant, their captain, to fire at some stage or the other, and the bowlers to continue in the same vein, despite the limitations. So I think at the moment, I would give KKR a bit of an edge, provided at home they are able to deliver, and that would happen if they play to their strengths. How about you,
Indeed.
Mash? How do you differentiate between the two?
And production, please star Pramod's point. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute because I see he's made the link. We're going to take an ad break in a second, people. Yeah. But just to respond to Megha's point there, I just think, Megha, that as great as it is to see Nicholas Pooran and Mitch Marsh and Luck now kind of have, like you said, let's call it the top heavy strategy. But the problem I have with that is that's a great strategy and a great plan A. But at some point, plan A stop. Now, if they're, I mean, for all I know, the plan A will just keep working all the way through the tournament. But when you only have really and truly on paper a plan A due to injuries and this, that, and the third, and a weakened bowling attack, at some point, you can't keep expecting your top players to fire. So we're yet to see what happens when the team comes under what I'd call consistent pressure. From game to game to game to game, and that will be the telling point for me. So if you ask me over the duration of a season, I think KKR have a more balanced side, so you would expect that to play out over the course of a season. But you never know. You never know if Pooran and Mitch Marsh keep playing, and this before we even mentioned Markram and all that lot. If Pooran and Mitch Marsh keep playing like this, then actually anything's possible. Anything is possible. But listen, we'll take an ad break. We have, and we'll come back on the other side to discuss the topic people are waiting for.
Remember to support us by subscribing and sharing, but also signing up at Cricket8.com, where live scorecards cover 8,000 matches a year with advanced visual details that tell you who is actually in front in the game.
So what were you alluding to, Mash? What was the topic?
MS Dhoni, number 7. MS Dhoni, 7. Yes, DJ Bravo. His
You know,
shout
I
out, his
actually took a
tribute.
while to cross check if there was some YouTube tab open on my laptop because I wasn't sure where that song was coming from.
So the DJ Bravo shout out to MS Dhoni. Let's address that. MS Dhoni's side, CSK, did play yesterday. They lost
Yeah.
by, let me just remind myself, they lost by 18 runs to Punjab. So let's try and seamlessly tie this up together, Megha. So before we get into Dhoni specifically, let's talk on his team, CSK, first things first. Production's taken the table down, but I believe CSK have 1 from 5 as well in terms of 1 win,
Yeah.
4 defeats. There we go. They're struggling massively. There's been so much said about the construction of their side. Lots written about where Gaikwad should be batting, and Dhoni's coming in at number 5. Now, Dhoni yesterday scored 27 from 12, strike rate of 225, but it was too little too late. They were having to chase 220 to win. Firstly, before we get to MSD, let's talk about Priyansh Iyer with on 103
3
from 42 balls. Now, Pooran took the accolades earlier this week, but I think Mr. Iyer might have to take some accolades. 103 from 42 balls, strike rate of 245, 7 fours, 9 sixes. Where do you start with someone like that?
A very interesting story as well. So we'd start from slightly earlier in his journey. Didn't get to play in the under 19 World Cup because he hadn't undergone the bone test that happens, and it then disqualifies you from playing in the under 19 World Cup. And then probably then in between, because that under 19 World Cup spot is very important for a lot of these age group players, because it puts the spotlight on you, and then even your state association notices. So somehow went in the wilderness after that, but thankfully for him, the inaugural edition of the Delhi Premier League, that really cast the spotlight on him, because he went berserk with the 6 sixes and created a lot of ripples there. And subsequently, the IPL franchises also got interested ahead of the IPL season. Ricky Ponting had mentioned that this is a player to watch out for, and we were then wondering if the combination would allow for him to get a chance to get a look in. And he eventually, when he did get a look in, he made the most out of it. I mean, just imagine playing his first IPL season, scoring a century, and the quickest century for an uncapped player. Looked absolutely dominant. Did get a couple of chances because of dropped opportunities, but has shown a lot of grit. And a lot of people are comparing him to Virendra Sehwag, another batter who opened for Punjab Kings at some juncture, and a left-handed Sehwag, albeit, because he follows that philosophy of see the ball, hit the ball. Wonderful story. And that's why IPL, is considered as a platform for youngsters to leave an imprint, whether that's Digvesh Rathi or Arya. He's just 24 years of age at this moment.
Indeed. So he set the foundation, because after Singh, Duck, Iyer 9, Stoinis 4, Wadhera 9, Maxwell 1. Obviously, Singh and Jansen came in at the back end to take them up
Huge
to 219. So it really puts into significance how important that knock of 103 was. But then CSK, in response, they retired Devon Conway out, which I certainly saw caused a lot of chatter online about whether that was the right move. He was on 69 from 49. We can debate if that was too sedate for the circumstances, but nobody else really came in and did anything to justify the decision. I mean, obviously, like say, Dhoni got 27 from 12. So you might say, well, Dhoni did. He went at a strike rate of 225. But retiring Conway, I think it was Jadeja who came in for him. And then Jadeja got 9 from what's going wrong with CSK? Let's go first. What do you think is going wrong for CSK and their strategy? And then we'll pivot to Dhoni.
So a whole lot of things. Let's start with the batting first. The combination, and that's something that Fleming has conceded as well. They're not really getting their combination right. CSK have already tried over 17 players, and that's not something that they're known to do. They're known to back a certain set of players, and 17 is a huge number because we're not even midway through the league. And even in terms of, it's not just about the person selected, but also what is the right spot for the selected personnel. So Rituraj Gaikwad sacrificing his opening slot. He's had mixed returns thus far, not opening. The openers in the previous game did come good, but otherwise have struggled. They've not had really imposing opening partnerships. And then subsequently, Shivam Dube came good in the last game, but he has been struggling as well, because he has created this reputation as a spin basher, and that has not really come good thus far, barring the previous game, of course, in this tournament. Ravindra Jadeja, MS Dhoni, we've seen there have been junctures when the two of them have batted together. They have similar weaknesses. They are not really, they haven't been accelerating against spin. So the teams really have it clear in front of them that hide your spinners from Shivam Dube, but RR, although didn't do that, they were more adventurous there. But hide your spinners from Shivam Dube, and then you can keep them once Jadeja and Dhoni are together on strike. So it's looked very simple. It's looked very simple for other teams, for their opponents. And when it comes to the bowling department as well, Noor has been doing really well. Ashwin picked up 2 wickets in the previous game, but was extremely expensive. Both Ashwin and Jadeja, they're not even getting to complete their quota of overs. Home advantage, we're not really sure, because we've had Fleming complaining about that as well. Mukesh Chaudhary, they tried him out, but he has been expensive. So all in all, there are a lot of components that are not working for them.
Well, let's go to the elephant in the room, Mr. MS Dhoni. You don't know where I'm going to go with this particular conversation. Maybe I don't even know myself. But actually, production, before I start off, bring up Vignesh Ram's comment about the brand value for Dhoni. Let's start there. I think I want to start with that argument first. So Vignesh says MS is still in CSK for his brand value, or MS is obsessed with cricket and will only stop playing cricket until his body breaks. Robin Atapa. So maybe Vignesh has been watching Kim Appa, which is the app. So that, which is the new show with Jarry Kimber and Robin Atapa. Maybe he's been watching that. I don't know. But let's start with that argument first. I'm a big believer, Megha, that certain players are just like not too dissimilar to how you'd see in like NBA in basketball. Certain players have a brand, and their brand is attached to a franchise, right? So LeBron James is currently, his brand is synonymous with the LA Lakers. You think LeBron James, you think LA Lakers. You think MS Dhoni, you think CSK. You think Virat Kohli, you think RCB, right? I could be naive in thinking that, but I do just wonder sometimes if whether Dhoni should step aside, whether he should have done it last season, the season when CSK won in 2023, that was his fairy tale ending. Maybe it should have happened then. But then last season, if you look at his stats, he was striking at 220 across the season. So arguably, maybe he shouldn't have gone. Do CSK need Dhoni? And I'm not talking about on the field. I'm talking about the whole thing, everything that encapsulates CSK. Do CSK need Dhoni, or does Dhoni love cricket more than CSK needs him? So I guess in that argument I'm making to you, Dhoni is bigger than CSK, but where do you stand on the line that CSK and the brand CSK, for all their fans and what it means to everybody in Chennai, do they actually still need Dhoni to galvanize the whole franchise? That's a lot there that I've given you, so you can start wherever you want with that.
So yeah, I'd be addressing very diverse points here in response to this question. Now, MS Dhoni, the brand, and just sticking to that at the moment. If you recall the 2023 IPL, now obviously the day of the scheduled finals, the finals could not be conducted because there were rains. So fans had to stay back. Fans in yellow and arriving at Ahmedabad, and then obviously considering logistically how big a challenge it was, because one wasn't prepared for it to rain and for the game to not happen, and for all of these people to stay back and then again come back the next day, all of them chanting Dhoni's name. And it was very apparent in the stadiums, because people thought probably this is Dhoni's last season, so we should turn out in huge numbers. And there's that nostalgia value associated with MS Dhoni, because his achievements for Indian cricket obviously are unparalleled. His contributions are unparalleled. So all of that considered, and we also have to factor in the fact that there have been a lot of icons. And I'm not just alluding to the word icon in the context of how it was in the first season, because every team had to have an icon player. But
Mm,
every so we've had icons in the IPL, but they couldn't have continued even if they'd wanted to. So obviously the franchise is okay with it and is encouraging it. Otherwise, Dhoni, obviously, or anybody in his position couldn't have carried on. So the franchise for sure wants him. The anticipation around whether this would be his last season, that has built up for 5 seasons now. That was
mm,
first time asked in 2020, and 2020 he was really struggling. So was his team, Chennai Super Kings. If you dig up the numbers, and they're clear
mm,
reflection of what happened on the pitch, because his average was 25. We have to also consider that there'd be a lot of not out innings, and his strike rate 116.
mm,
2021, a lot didn't change. Strike rate reduced to 106, so did the average 16.28. Though there was an important knock that he played against DC in the playoffs, and that was obviously pivotal, taking Tom Curran for plenty. 2022, he had again, he had decided to hand over the captaincy to Jadeja just before the IPL started, and then midway through it, there were some issues. Dhoni would still take some calls on the field, and eventually, because the CSK was struggling, he took back the captaincy. Again, not great numbers in terms of the strike rate, but average was fine at 33. 2023, 2024, we saw that sort of, if resurgence is the correct term for a player who has played so much cricket, but there was sort of comeback from him in terms of his ball striking. Now, last season in particular, he took up a very super specialized role wherein he'd come, face very few balls, and then go hammer and tongs and leave an impact. But this season, because Chennai have been losing wickets up front, he's had to come in earlier, and he's not managing to leave that sort of impact when playing for a longer duration. He underwent a knee surgery ahead of the last season and hence handed captaincy to Rituraj Gaikwad. We weren't really sure about the nature of his involvement, whether he'd come in as impact player or what would it be, but he's been keeping wickets, so he looks fairly fit. And as a wicket keeper, he has been what he has been over the years. He's been impactful, he has been effective. But as a batter, now again, when facing more deliveries, particularly looking at his stats in matches that CSK have gone on to win, in matches where CSK got into a situation from where they couldn't have won, he does boast of great numbers. But in matches where CSK, where it's 50-50, where team has to be where you have to help the team to cross the line, the impact hasn't been that great. We saw one such knock in 2022 against MI, but this season we are yet to see it. Or last season as well, he was struggling on that yardstick, on leaving match-defining impact on the games, which were really where CSK was stuck. So that's something to factor in. But
mm,
CSK, the brand, and MS Dhoni, his contributions to CSK, the brand, that cannot be overstated. Right from the inception of the IPL, the identities are intertwined. And in fact, you see a lot of players and ex players highlighting that, and players obviously cannot go on record to complain about it. But whenever the wickets fall, the crowd starts really. You traditionally you'd not expect the crowd to cheer CSK losing wickets, but they do
mm,
once they start anticipating Dhoni arriving at the crease, and that's something that Ambati Raidu, an ex CSK player, has pointed out, how that can pressurize the batters coming in, and how that can pressurize the batters actually batting, because you want the crowd to be egging you on. That crowd support, home support, is important. So all of that considered, the brand Dhoni remains mammoth, and it's not just reflected at Chepauk, but it's reflected everywhere, every nook and corner of the country. But as athletes, so does Dhoni love cricket a lot? That was a part of your question. As athletes, and you'd agree, I'm pretty sure on that. As athletes, this is something that they've grown up doing at a very nascent stage. They would have picked up the bat or the wicket keeping gloves or whatever, and it's a part of their habit now, part of their life now. Is it easy to let it go? None of the athletes that have recently retired or have in history retired would have wanted to retire, or would have, like, very few of them would have just gotten done with it. It's very difficult to move on. How do you then take that call? Because as competitors, you want to still be in the thick of the action, in the middle of things. So yeah, it's a difficult decision. It's a decision that he gets to take entirely, which is not something that's relevant in everybody's case. He knows every season So, for example, next player who's not really sure if his name goes into the auction pool, whether he'd be purchased or not, whether he'd be snapped up or not, that person would reconsider playing on. That person might just retire because there's reputation at stake. Going unsold isn't really a great feeling. So, yeah, Mash, you did start with your opening thought. What is a closing thought on the topic?
Well, so actually, funnily enough, I'm glad production has brought up this comment because I think this is quite pertinent to my thoughts on it. So Sumit says, due to MSD being in the team, the whole conversation is sort of deviated away from the actual issues in the team, that being low investments in the young talents from the domestic scene. Now, we can argue the toss on whether that's the biggest issue for CSK or not, in particular this season. But what I do find interesting is that Dhoni, as much as I'm asking the question, when should Dhoni go? Should you have already gone, etc.? He's not the biggest problem this season.
Yeah.
But maybe in his defense, when you're one of many potential issues within the construction of a side, it's almost easier to look at the 43-year-old guy and say, but why is he there? Rather than look at what might be some deeper rooted issues in the context of the team that are conveniently, I wouldn't say being forgotten. I'm sure people are dissecting them, but do you get what I mean, Megha? It's almost easier to go and look at the 43-year-old guy and say, why did you decide to play on another season? He's not even the worst performer in the team, though, as things currently stand. Do you think that's part of the issue here as well?
Yeah, so CSK have not really built a reputation around nurturing young players. They've known to provide a second wind to, say, players who have fallen off the radar, be that Robin Uthappa, Ajinkya Rahane, or Ambati Rayudu for that matter. So again, they have obviously given opportunities to younger players over the years, but it hasn't been mass level. So say 3 to 4 players who are unheralded, them being given a chance. Pathirana, there's this comment that is mentioning Pathirana and Noor. Now, Noor had been active and had been effective in the global franchise scene for the last 1 year in particular. So there were other teams as well that went for him, and hence the 10 crore price tag. Around Ruturaj Gaikwad as well. So that season, this was the 2020 season, when MS Dhoni, the captain, was asked why CSK does not give opportunities to youngsters. His point was that there are not enough players with spark, enough youngsters with spark, and that comment was dissected left, right, and center. Eventually, towards the fag end of the season, Ruturaj Gaikwad again got a chance. He did get a chance in the initial games. He was making comeback from COVID, and then in the second part, or rather towards the end of the season, the 3 games that he played, he scored back-to-back half centuries, and then obviously now he's leading the side. So CSK again. Investment in young talent, uncapped Indian players, that's something that probably they'd look at. But the template that has worked really well for them, why not back it? Again, Shivam Dubey as well. He went to RR, he tried other things, didn't really work out for him. But once he went to CSK, he started delivering. So if that template of backing capped India players who've fallen off the radar has worked for them, why not go ahead with it? And in fact, there's another point that I want to make in the context of MS Dhoni as well. At the end of the day, it's not the Indian team that we're talking about. We're talking about IPL teams. And IPL, obviously, the cricket part is very important. And that's why the IPL stands head and shoulders above other franchise leagues, because it's able to attract the best of talents. But alongside that, there's a bit of brand angle to it as well. There's a bit of appeal angle to it as well. So MS Dhoni retired from international cricket in 2020, announced his retirement in 2020, and played on till 2019, till the World Cup. But he could continue playing in the IPL because, again, it's not the Indian team. So it's an IPL team. So the brand angle is going to be important. You need to attract eyeballs. You need to have that fan following for the franchise to continue to thrive. So that probably also has to be considered. And for Chennai as well, they've realized at the end of the day, if it's working for them, they'd back it. It's this season and the previous season that they stuttered, but in 2023, they thrived doing what they do. And they've almost every alternate season they've done well. It's just this season where it's not working, and it's an alternate season.
So
what would
last
you want
point.
them to do, Mash?
Well, so this is. I'm glad you made that point right at the very end, because I think that's we live in an era of sports consumption where and I think we have to remember any kind of analysis that is done has to be remembered that this is now the era we live in. So every
Yeah.
defeat is a crisis. So CSK may well go on. Okay, let's just say they don't qualify, they don't go to the postseason, they end in the bottom 3, 4. Okay, but sometimes you just have a bad season, and it's not a like existential crisis that requires a huge. Yes, you might have to tweak one or two things, but I think sport is so hyper consumed now. Every game can become an episode in and of itself rather than 5 games, and you try to pick out some trends and so on and so forth. So we have to be, I think, as sports consumers, as sports media analysts, call us and anybody what you want. Sometimes you have to step away and look for the wider trend that's playing out here. Now, what I would just say, and my final point on Dhoni, is this. If we are saying that his brand is synonymous with CSK's brand, and that brand is important in general, even if he stepped away this season, let's just say, argument's sake, he steps away this season, is it a stretch for me to suggest that he immediately becomes head coach of CSK? Or do you see him stepping away from the game? He might take on like an ambassadorial role, or he might be like a director of cricket or something. I don't see him ever stepping away from the CSK brand. So all I want to understand is do you think he'll seamlessly then transition into the dugout and say, right, I'm now the head coach of CSK? Or do you see him saying, I'm actually just going to take a break from cricket because I've been playing it for the best part of 30 years or whatever it might be?
So, looking at Dhoni's brand image overall, so there's a sort of exclusivity to it. He isn't somebody who's really active on social media. His family too isn't like really active on social media. Whatever little glimpses we get is via his family members' accounts, but otherwise they too are not really out there. So Dhoni has. So that's obviously what MS Dhoni is as a person, and it's not just a media construct. But considering that the only time he's active and leading an active public life is during that period of IPL. He's not been doing commentary, no commentary gig really to his name till now. So I do see him getting involved with CSK, and that has happened with a lot of other teams as well, RR and Rahul Dravid. Although it's not like Rahul Dravid has only played for RR. He started with the RCB, but that understanding, that tuning was really good. Sachin Tendulkar and MI. So, considering how big the entourage is in today's day and age, so it's really easier to then absorb the former legends of the club. So, for example, you have mentors as well, and then there is head coach. So, even if he doesn't want to get into it full-fledged, there is that mentor role. Now, who gets to decide, who gets the deciding power and how much of it, that varies from team to team and from stature to stature. So I do see MS Dhoni getting involved. I'd be really surprised if once he has announced his retirement. In the meanwhile, I must mention that his parents came to watch the previous game, or the game before that in fact, and that doesn't always happen. So is it a sign? But every season we keep wondering, is it a sign? And that too is an interesting conversation for us in the media. So, but in any case, whenever he decides to hang his boots, I'm pretty sure he'd get involved with the CSK, or if the Indian team wants him in some capacity or the other, but
Of
doesn't
course,
look
I've got
likely
India. Yeah.
immediately in the next few years.
You know what, Megha? Thank you so much. Ladies and gents, we hope you've enjoyed that tour de force of the week that is IPL and the MS Dhoni conversation. That's not going away. And certainly IPL is continuing. As we're ending the show right now, I'm sure all eyeballs, hopefully you had both on at the same time, but all eyeballs now turn to Gujarat versus Rajasthan. Rajasthan won the toss and have chosen to bowl. And just before we go, I asked right at the beginning of the show, who is who in IPL? Please, if you're watching this on the replay, let me know in the comments. Let us know in the comments below. So apparently RCB are Arsenal, because they're all hype but have no silverware. Mumbai Indians are Man City because they have the big money and the trophies. CSK are Real Madrid. They're the legacy team with iconic leaders. KKR are Manchester United. Flashes of dominance, big reputation. Delhi Capitals are Tottenham, forever the bridesmaid. Listen, follow Pramod in the comments, people. He's told you who all these IPL teams are in the context of the English Premier League. And like I say, do watch this on, if you're watching this on the replay, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that. And myself and Megha will be back very, very soon with some more content. We've been the Cricket8 Podcast. See you all very, very soon.
Remember to support us by subscribing and sharing, but also signing up at Cricket8.com, where live scorecards cover 8,000 matches a year with advanced visual details that tell you who is actually in front in the game.